It's the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak. Serving up trending news and conservative views. Brought to you by the Elsa Kurt Collection. And Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
Oh my goodness. It's another week, another bunch of fun stuff. I don't know if it's all fun. It's never all fun. We know better than that. But we have a system here, right, Clay? We start off hard, right? Like we just throw it at you. We get it over and done with, and then we move on to fun stuff, right?
Yeah, we always hit the big one first, and we got a couple of big ones this week. But and I'm a little irritated about some of this stuff. I'm maybe a little bit more animated than normal, but some of this stuff really got under my skin. But we got some big stuff to talk about, folks, and as promised, we will end with something a little bit lighter, a few little lighter things at the end, just to go out on a happier note. But we'll get started right after this.
Floods, feds, and fake heroes. Welcome to the show where we call it like it is. Texas is underwater. The DOJ's burying Epstein's secrets. Trump's up for a Nobel. Musk is building a new party. And Hollywood's turning Superman into a border policy lecture. Buckle up, Patriots. It's going to get real.
Oh, is it ever? So, I mean, right off the top, let's just hit honestly, the most devastating one right off the bat, right? Just awful, awful, awful. And it's so crazy. You know, we have there's tons of video, right, Clay? I mean, it's all over the place. But this one, and I chopped it up a bit, just for time. And it's like a time lapse. So somebody had done a time lapse. It was like about a 35-minute time lapse, and they sped it up. I took it and kind of chopped it up, but it just gives us that overview of how fast this happened. Where is that? Let's see. Here it is. Yeah. So here, let me take that off of there so we can actually see that time lapse. So this is, and I love that they put the clock down at the bottom there. Just watching how this water is just moving through, and wait till you see the end of this. It's just crazy to me. And I think this guy is like he's on like a bridge, which is crazy in itself. As is obvious, I took the sound off because it was like kind of really loud. But look at this. It's going right underneath there. You see all that debris is just building up. Now here we are 23 minutes later from the start. Look at this, 23 minutes later. That has got to be so terrifying to watch. And I'm not sure if I give this guy credit for standing there and recording it all and not getting to safety. But yeah, see the house. Just insane. 35 minutes there. And I think that's gonna cut out right about now. Yeah. Awful.
Yeah. So 6 counties affected. So Kerr, Travis, Kendall, Burnett, Williamson, and Tom Green counties. And for those of you that don't know Texas well, that is Austin as a whole, everything around Austin, a little bit west of Austin, north of San Antonio, and then one other county a little north of that. Mm-hmm. Right now, and okay, so it's Wednesday, 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, because it matters. That timestamp matters because right now the count I saw was 119 dead and 161 still missing.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, that number will change before this airs on Thursday.
Yeah.
I saw everything from 6 inches in some places. Most places was 10 to 12 inches. Some places were 20 inches. But you know, that film you showed, really what that tells you is not necessarily how much water, but how fast. I mean, you can get 20 inches of rain spread over 2 days or 3 days. It'll be bad, but it won't be like that. I mean, 20 inches of rain, that happened in a matter of a few hours, folks. And so that's the result that you get. You get flash flood, scary kind of stuff. And water is the worst. It
Awful.
is, it's strong, it's powerful, it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It will flow around through over anything and everything in its path. It will
Mm-hmm.
carry, the house is a prime example.
Yeah.
Water, and this, this is a case of one of the worst case scenarios, but water has the power to be absolutely devastating. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and you add that next layer, all of those things that you said, and then there's the whole part about you can't see what's in that water when it's moving effects. So, you see all the time these videos of people thinking like it'll be such a great idea to get out on their canoe or their raft, and even if they're doing that with the best of intentions to try and rescue somebody, or they're trying to walk through it or swim through it, you have no idea what's in that water, and it's just the dangers are just multiplied by that. But the reason why I'm personally emphasizing that timeline, how fast that happened, is because of all the disgusting accusations, and I think that's really one of the most sickening parts of all of this. And there's been plenty of it. I'm sure you guys have seen it as well. Just from the media, mainstream media outlets, the alphabet media outlets, right away going with, blaming Trump and cuts to the National Weather Service and all of that nonsense. Just running with completely false information and just bringing more damage to an already awful situation. People just being disgusting, horrific humans. There's a couple people that have actually gotten fired from their jobs. There's this woman here who decided that this was a great comment to make. She is or was a doctor. She, I believe, has been
pediatrician, right?
Yeah. And there's several others. I just, I don't want to give these disgusting people any more attention. Definitely want them called out for being horrific humans. But, just the flip side of that, this guy here, 26-year-old Coast Guard rescue swimmer Scott Ruskin, saved 165 lives during the Texas floods.
So he is a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard, which is, listen, Coast Guard doesn't get enough credit. And I've said this a number of times, before 9/11, Coast Guard was in contact with bad people every single day. And then, we use them when I was deployed. They have arrest authority. They can arrest people. So we had Coast Guardsmen on more than one occasion assigned or attached to us when we would go after some high value folks that needed to be potentially arrested by U.S. authorities and then sent to places where U.S. prisoners went. So I worked with Coasties before. They're very underrated folks, very professional organization, and they put their butt on the line on a regular basis. And this guy's a prime example. So he's a rescue swimmer, and really, folks, it's not a great movie, but if you want a taste for rescue swimmers, there is a movie out there with some big names called The Guardian. It's got Kevin Costner and Ashton Kutcher in it. And it'll give you a little taste of what rescue swimmers are capable of. But these folks are trained to jump into the worst of conditions, literally. Think off the coast of Alaska, think, off the coast of California and Florida. And obviously in situations like this, to jump in. And not only are they unbelievably talented, skilled, and strong swimmers, they're scuba capable, they're medic capable. They have tons and tons of training. I think their training pipeline's over a year just to get certified, right? And a high washout rate. So this guy was stationed in Corpus Christi, and this was his very first rescue operation.
Wow. I don't think I realized that part of it. Oh, my goodness.
So 165 rescues, right? There are divers, there are rescue swimmers who will not get 10 rescues in their career, will not get 15 or 20, depending on how long they stay in. So this guy's 165 on his first go, plus he triaged and treated 230 total people because he was the only medical manager on site. So when he wasn't in the water, he was doing medic duties on top of it to save all of these people. Unfortunately, Like, and I really believe that an exception should be made. The Coast Guard does have a Medal of Honor as a service branch. There's only been one Coast Guardsman who's ever been awarded it. But the problem is that Medal of Honor is traditionally for actions in combat.
I see. Well, they need to create. They need to create something.
They have another, top tier, award. But I think for the Coast Guard, because of what they do, this is unbelievable. If there's anybody that deserves a Medal of Honor, this is the guy, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I think there needs to be some sort of adjustment made. I don't know, maybe just within the Coast Guard or something, but unbelievable what this guy did, and good on him. I mean, really good on him.
26 years old. He's a kid. Wow.
Yeah. Unreal.
Wow. Talk about being made for such a time as this. He was
perfect guy, perfect place, perfect time.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow. 100%. Yeah. And I'm so glad to see him getting the acknowledgement. And like every true hero, it's probably horrifying to him to be singled out like that. Well, he probably would say he's just doing his job, and God love him for that too.
And I saw an interview with a couple of other rescue divers, some local folks who got in maybe, after he did, or maybe in different locations. And what you don't think about with this is, and let's just talk, unfortunately, about Camp Mystic, which is one of the things everyone's talking about. Camp Mystic was a kids camp. It's been around for a very, very long time. In fact, it's got a tie to the Bush family. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not. Yeah. I knew there were a lot of different ties, but I didn't realize that one.
So President Bush, President W, his wife was a counselor there when she was younger. And is Jenna the blonde? Is she the one that's on TV? Their daughter?
Yes.
So because mom had been a counselor there, they had sent in years past their 2 kids to that camp, right? So this camp's been around for a long time. It's well known. It's well respected. But that camp was in the middle of this. There are some horrifying stories. The counselors, there were a total of 27 campers and counselors, including the director himself, were killed during this. And the director was killed, notably trying to save and protect kids. But going back to the rescue divers, those folks are going in the water, and now that it's been a day or 3 or 4, this is not rescue anymore. This is recovery. So unfortunately, what those folks are going to go into is some very dirty, muddy water, and they're going in to find people that are deceased and probably not in great shape. So there's a flip side, a very gut wrenching side to that heroic effort by Petty Officer Ruskin from the Coast Guard, is that there is obviously the awful stuff that comes with it. Yeah.
There's going to be a huge emotional toll to be paying for those efforts, and I hope they get the love and the care and the respect and everything that they need. They will be needing from this kind of experience. It's devastating. I can't. I watch the video, I watch the news, I watch the stories, and I can't. You just can't truly wrap your brain around it. You think you can imagine it. You cry, it breaks your heart, all of the things, but to live it and experience it is something completely other. And I think that's why, for myself, and of course for you and so many others who actually have compassionate bones in their bodies, are so appalled and disgusted by the behaviors and comments and sentiments of just random people on the internet who forget their humanity, and just, the stupidity, just the stupid things. Celebrities are probably my absolute favorite for saying incredibly stupid, ignorant things and just parroting nonsense that they hear. And, your perfect example. And yes, I have it. I'm sorry, guys. You're going to hate me for putting this up here, but, this is representative of the idiocy. Here it is.
And what a horror story in Texas, the flash floods in Texas. The Guadalupe River, 51 missing, 51 dead, more missing. Children at a camp. And when the president guts all of the early warning systems and the weathering forecast abilities of the government.
I'm going to stop her for a second. If she had just stopped, if she had just stopped at the, and of course this was earlier on, obviously those numbers went up since she had posted this video right up on her face like that. If she had just stopped at acknowledging the tragedy, but then where does she have to go? Right away from her little safe space in Ireland, because she couldn't bear to live here under President Trump. But she can't help but weigh in on this stuff. This is exactly where she goes.
These are the results that we're going to start to see on a daily basis, because he's put this country in so much danger by his horrible, horrible decisions and this ridiculously immoral bill that he just signed into law. As Republicans cheered, people will die as a result, and they've started already.
I mean, way to not only just politicize a weather event tragedy, but to do so utterly and completely 100% incorrectly. And, as always, the thing that yanks my chain is that she'll never backpedal. She'll never come back out and say, I was wrong. I apologize. She had her moment. She had her little dramatic statement there. And this is what these people do. And they spread these lies and false information. And the problem with that, and I know a lot of people will say, well, who listens to Rosie O'Donnell? Who cares? The problem is she's, like I said, she's parroting what these other people, these mainstream media, which, by the way, you may not be listening to what Rosie O'Donnell says, but you can be damn sure that there are a lot of people listening to what the mainstream media says and taking it as truth and then running with it. It's that, I don't know, it's like the bad version of like the butterfly effect. They just keep spreading this garbage. Did you see, Clay? The other one I wanted to touch on this was the, it brings out all of the things, right? It brings out the heroes and the amazing stories of courage and greatness. Those are my favorite ones. Those are the ones I would really prefer to focus on. It brings out the zeros, like that pediatrician who's absolute garbage. And it also brings out my other favorite, the conspiracy theorists. And I tell you, I have a little bit of it in my blood, so I have nothing against it. But sometimes it gets a little carried away. And I think this is one of the cases. I think this is the cloud seeding. Did you see the people blaming cloud seeding?
Yeah, I've seen this. And listen, there is, I'm a believer that there is some truth to, to cloud seeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
To generating.
Absolutely. It is a thing. Mm-hmm.
To generate rain. And I know it's been done in many places, for crops and to prevent drought or to reverse drought and those kinds of, and listen, the technology's out there. There's no doubt about it. Folks, this ain't it. Like this isn't it. I know everybody jumps on these opportunities to say stuff like that because it's, tangentially related, but this ain't it, right? That's not what this is. And you're right. There's different levels of stupid associated with incidences like this. One of them is the mainstream media who is pretending to inform, and report. And that's not what they're doing. And then you've got the mouths that politicize, the Rosie O'Donnells, the pediatrician. There's another one out there who was not only, she said something along the same stupid lines of like, this is Trump and MAGA and blah, 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 blah. Totally erroneous. And then when people jumped on her, she doubled down.
Yes. Is that the one that was basically mocking the Christian camp?
At the range, right? She was shooting and she's like, come at my house. I got something for, something like that. And it was like, so you've got that, and then you've got this. You've got the conspiracy theorists, which is a different level, kind of crazy or stupid that goes along with this stuff. So people can't help themselves. There is, like you said, I think there's a lot of compassion out there. I just think that in the moments of quiet, when the compassionate people are doing what they should be doing, you've got the loudmouths who can't help themselves. They've got to fill the silence, and they fill it with their stupidity, and then that's what you get. So. No, I'm again, that's one of the things I'm not happy about. horrific that anyone, especially since it's been debunked already, right? They've laid out all the timelines of all the warnings. The National Weather Service. The National Weather Service says they have all the manning that they need to have.
Right.
That reports come out. It's all there. The facts are out there. And yet you still have these people who refuse to acknowledge that because they've got political messaging on their mind.
Right.
And it's just sick and it's gross. Really.
Yeah. And exactly. And the fact is that they had extra staff on hand. They were not understaffed. They had extra staff on hand. Warnings had been going out from 12 hours, I believe, prior to, and of course, all leading up to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Clay, the biggest problem came when those critical warnings, like the get the heck out of there now, it was like the middle of the night and people were sleeping,
early morning,
and they simply were not awake to hear it, to know. And, and there's that sense of disbelief. I think that happens, that people are like, we're going to get a lot of rain. It's going to be crazy. Let's just, wait it out. And, it's a combination of so many things, but the biggest factor is that timeline, how quickly that happened. And just to quickly go back to that cloud seeding, I want to just say two quick things. One, I completely agree, guys. I do know. I'm not disputing that cloud seeding is a thing. It's absolutely a thing that's happening. I do not love this idea. I do not think we should be fooling around with Mother Nature and trying to basically play Mother Nature. It gets a little. We start hitting those gray areas, and I feel like that's one of them. It creeps me out a little bit. However, so this is what was reported. And, I can't tell you what to do. Believe it, don't believe it, whatever. But this is what they put out. So they said, yes, Rainmaker, which is the cloud seeding company that they were talking about, conducted cloud seeding on July 2nd, 2025 in South Central Texas. That was accurate. That is true. It said, but the clouds dissipated that afternoon. The July 4 floods, killing over 100, were caused by natural heavy rains from Tropical Storm Barry's remnants, per meteorologists and fact checks. I know we hate the phrase fact check. It always gives you a little twinge, but so the claims are just not true. Coincidental, sure, and no, I don't like that word either. But they have timelines here to show. I mean, they can back up what they said. So there's that. Again, I don't dispute that cloud seeding is a thing. Certainly not saying that. But that was not the factor here that caused this to happen. So, yeah.
I think, going forward, nothing, other than the heroic actions by petty officers, and, not a lot of great is going to come out of this, except, and, folks, if you think I'm saying this too early and maybe we should take a breath, okay. But I think, the discussion has to be had for facilities like Camp Mystic in their emergency, not in their viability or anything else, but in their emergency response. And some of that is regional, right? If it's a upper Midwest kind of thing, and you're in Tornado Alley, if you've got a camp for kids, if you're a parent, you should be asking, okay, in case of a tornado,
right,
what is the crisis action, by the camp? If you're on the West Coast and you've got something in California, what's the earthquake protocol, plan for the camp? If you're in Florida, the Southeast, or even on the Gulf Coast, what's the hurricane plan? You know what I mean? Like, and those facilities and those camps, I'm not saying Camp Mystic didn't have this, because I don't know. But what I'm saying is, you as a parent, or any consumer like that, if you're going to go and enjoy those types of events, or if you're going to send a family member, you should be asking those questions within, just common sense. And if you're an owner operator of one of those facilities, you should be planning these kinds of things. And I know it gets a little cost prohibitive sometimes, but you can't have these kinds of things happen. And I'm not saying that what happened at Camp Mystic was preventable. I have no idea, but I think grand scheme of things, we collectively need to start taking a better view and a better preparedness posture for things like this, because even if the facility can't, prevent it, when Mother Nature votes, she votes, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. But if all the precautions aren't being taken, then you should at least raise an eyebrow.
Right. Yeah. And, and as is always the case with tragedies along these lines, they unfortunately become the learning curve, sadly, right? And that's, so if there is something good, and that's what you do. I think that's what we do, the humanity side of us, survival side, all of those things. That's the side that says, okay, so something horrific has happened. This is devastating and heartbreaking. What can we do now to prevent that? So what can we do to make good come from something so tragic and awful? Well, we can learn from it, right? We can do better as far as everything you just said, so how can we ensure that something like this is at the very least less likely to happen? Because that whole area, correct me if I'm wrong, that whole area is known to be prone to flash flooding like that, right? I mean, that whole part of Texas.
So yes, that part of Texas, but not uncommon for that part, even in the southwest of the United States, when you get into Western Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, and even into California, out in the desert part of California, when you go through weeks and months of no rain, and then all of a sudden there's some rain, the ground doesn't just absorb that, folks. Like sometimes the ground is so hard and so dry that it can't consume all that rain quickly enough. It just doesn't work that way. And people who live there know those things, if you've ever spent any amount of time in Texas, right? You drive around on the roads and there's just this dust on everything. And then all of a sudden it rains and it may as well be ice because you've got all that dirt and oil and everything else that's built up on the road. And then the water hits it and it becomes slick as all get out. So, those things, that part of Texas, you're right, is prone to flash flooding only because they don't get perpetual rain as we kind of do further north of Mason-Dixon. So you've got to take the precautions and don't what you said about and what I said about learning from this is it is an absolute tragedy that this happened and the loss of life is horrific and we all hate it. Do not look past it, and if we're going to make that anything good come out of that loss of life, it's to prevent it from happening again in another way. So learn the lessons, apply what we know, and make sure that we're not having to do this again at another location in another place because somebody didn't pay attention.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Our hearts and prayers absolutely go out to everyone affected by that and to the rescuers out there and just working tirelessly to, hopefully find as many survivors as possible and, and the recovery efforts obviously as well. So we'll, I think I'm echoing you, Clay. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot more to be said on it. I mean, I don't mean it is what it is, but I know you know what I mean, guys. At the moment, this is what we have on that. Moving on, we've got this. This is such a, wah, wah, wah moment, except not in a funny, amusing way. So many feelings on this. I just, at this point, I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, we all know, everybody knows he didn't hang himself. There's just, I'm sorry, you will never convince the majority of the world, because why? If he was innocent, if there's no list, why is a multi-millionaire, I've heard billionaire, I don't know if that's accurate, but at least a multi-millionaire
owned an island.
Gonna get off, right? What?
Yeah, he owned an island, so billionaire is probably not too far off.
Yeah, billionaire is probably accurate. So that answer, that conclusion only gives more questions, and they have to have known that. But my impression here, Clay, and you tell me what you think, is that they are closing the conversation on that. They are done talking about it, and I think that is going to be the continuing response, that like we have concluded our investigation on this. We're done talking about it, and that's that. And a lot of people are not happy.
Yeah, I said at the top of the show that there are some things that I am upset about, and this is really, really high on the list. And I'm going to apologize to everybody before I get started. This, with the Attorney General Bondi coming forward and saying there is no list, on top of the Patel Bongino, he didn't kill himself. When President Trump ran his campaign, two of the things specifically the one thing that he talked about was Epstein files would be released and the list would be released and there would be full transparency and we would know everything. Right?
Yep.
Now he didn't kill. Now he did kill himself on a tape that
there's no list.
On a tape that is suspect on a good day. There's now no list. When we have been we have been talking about a list of clients for years, people. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, we never said there was a list. We said there was a file, right? And that was the Bondi position, which is total bullshit. I'm sorry, folks. And then you've got the White House press secretary, staying on message and saying, oh, well, what she said was that it's on my desk. She didn't say, because Ducey called her out. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yes, so I saw that.
Right? So Peter Ducey, God love him for being an honest attempt at being a journalist, right? Playing both sides.
Yeah.
Said, listen, she said there was a list. And then, the press secretary said, no, what she said was it was on her desk. And what she was talking about was the whole file, not a list specifically. We've been saying list. Everybody has been saying list for years. And now there's no list, right? We didn't say file. Nobody was saying the Epstein file. Nobody was saying, that anything, but list was the word, right? And now all of a sudden there's no list. And, Ghislaine Maxwell is still in jail.
Right.
So
she's going to get released based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there's no clients, then she didn't traffic anybody.
Right.
Which we've got victims out there who have raised their hand. We know Prince Andrew was on the island, right?
Yes.
The royal family has ostracized that guy. He's done. That guy's living in a hut somewhere because they don't want. He is kryptonite. They don't go anywhere near him, right? We know. We know there were people down there. We know there were people of power down there, right?
Yep.
We know that there are victims that have testified. Ghislaine Maxwell is in jail right now for trafficking. We all know this. And the fact that they're telling us that this doesn't exist now after all these years, this is the Democrat playbook. I'm sorry, folks. Oh, no. This is total, they're treating us like we're idiots. They really are.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the biggest disappointment in this whole thing was President Trump the other day. Sorry, folks. I know everybody's a fan, but when he said, oh, you're still talking about Epstein? We're still talking about this guy? People have been talking about this guy for years. You ran your campaign on this.
Right.
Not so many months ago.
That guy's a monster.
I am so Patel, Bongino, Bondi. It's all crap. All of it.
It is.
And I really, really hope someone investigates them. I really do. Because this is dishonest. There is something highly illegal going on when it comes to this. And they can come knock on my front door. I really don't care. But this is garbage, people. We're all being lied to, period.
Yeah. And the reality of it is, and I'm pretty sure I think everybody realizes that. I think everybody knows what this actually comes down to, which is that there are some unbelievably wealthy, powerful people who are running the show, and it's not our elected officials.
Nope.
And
it might. Some of them might be our elected officials.
Yeah, some of them certainly might be. Yeah, absolutely. But overall, they are protecting people who basically said, "This is not going to ever come out." Period. End of story. And they said, "Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We will toe the line, no matter what the cost." And that tells you that actually, to some level, that is. We should all be kind of frightened by that anyone can have that level of power and control, because you're silencing the people who are supposed to be the biggest players, they are supposed to be the most powerful people in the world. And, they are just more puppets. It's, disappointing is the understatement of the year, isn't it? It's just disheartening because they're getting away with it. And I don't think that's going to change. None of this will come out until all of these people are buried in their graves.
And
we
maybe,
won't live
maybe
to see
not
it.
even then.
Yeah, most of us will not live to see these names and the truth come out. And, and here's where I'm honestly torn. And I think some people are going to be mad at me. Some people are going to be disappointed in me for saying this. There is a part of me that has this, and this is what they bank on, by the way. We use the term fatigue, this and that fatigue. And that is what they're banking on. And I am intelligent enough to be aware that their tactic is working to a degree on me, where I feel this fatigue over the whole thing. And I'm like, all right, you know what? If this isn't going to happen, if you're not going to hold these people accountable, if they're not going to see their day, if the powers that be are that strong, then I don't know. I guess we can keep beating our heads against this brick wall, or we can focus on criminals and crimes that we can actually lock people up for. And I'm not saying that is the right take to have on this by any means. It's just the frustration and fatigue that, like, I can't let my brain stay in that zone, because it like you, Clay, it makes me like shaking angry. Like, how you get so angry that you're shaking, the adrenaline makes you shake from it. It's like that. It's the rage on the behalf of these victims, because, by the way, they're children, and that's the thing that really makes you lose your mind. Or they were children when this was all happening, and their lives are destroyed. And now they're put back in that position of almost being, invisible. Like they're just getting erased. Well, it didn't happen. No list, no clients, nothing to see here. Move on. Yeah. And I know we're just echoing the anger and frustrations that you guys are all feeling as well about this.
The problem, though, Elsa, is that there are people that are defending this.
Yeah.
There are, Trump MAGA acolyte, diehard followers that say, well, if the president says so, if the president trusts Pam Bondi, I trust the president. And if she says there's no list, then there's no list. And, I can't, that everybody who voted for President Trump railed on the entire Biden administration for doing exactly the same thing, right? They all went along with what President Biden said. They all went along with what Soros paid for. They all went along with all of it. And the entire election was over the fact that you had distrust, dishonesty, you had lying within the government that was being protected by the government. Yeah. And President Trump won the election to try to avoid that from continuing to happen. And now that's exactly what we have happening. And it's just, there are people who are literally out there going, oh, well, then there must not be a list. If Pam Bondi says there's no list and President Trump says there's no list and we should stop talking about Epstein, then we should probably do it. No.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. And I see some of the, the big name pundits towing the line here and doing that. And right. Oh, yeah. And that says a lot right there about, to answer the question of, is there a club? Like, is there a club that they're all part of? Yep. Pretty sure the answer on that is yes, there is. Yes, there absolutely is. And I have never been more proud and happy to not be in a club. This is one of those many, many times that I've had during the course of this podcasting social media journey. Somebody just asked me today if I had, they didn't mean it in an insulting way, but they asked if I had any clout, as in like, do I have any connections to any political figures and, or media figures or any of those things? And I said, not a damn one. And I am so proud of that. That is a badge of honor to me. I don't want to be part of that world. I am thrilled to be and grateful to be an absolute outsider. And that's where I have every intention of staying, because that is a dirty, ugly world. And, I'm glad to not be part of the club, the cool kids club, because this is what's expected of you. Now, here's your script. Here's what everybody's going to say now. And you keep saying that until more people say it because you have influence. So yeah, it's disappointing. I still love Trump. I do believe that this is something so much bigger than any of us can possibly fathom. I mean, I just don't even know what to do anymore with this. What do you do with this anymore? I love the fact there are people that aren't going to give up. I do know that there are people who will now make this their life's mission to get some type of truth and justice out of this. I hope they're not in the hamster wheel, wasting their time. I don't know.
Yeah, I think these are the things, the habitual argument has been, or the discussion has been, that when the left loses or they get outmaneuvered, they get violent, right? We've seen that time and time again.
Yeah.
We've seen it in the protests that become riots, and then, it's burning down cities and it's attacking ICE agents, which happened this week twice.
Yeah.
And they do, that's their response. And the conservative side says, it's kind of funny because we're the ones who legally own all the guns and we're the ones who are not the violent side. But these are the kinds of things that will raise the level of frustration to the point of violence. I hate to say it, but there are enough people that will be upset about this to such a degree that it would not surprise me if there was some sort of, unwarranted is probably not even the right word, but some sort of violent response to this in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I think this is like the biggest, it feels like the biggest con job ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this actually leads unintentionally, believe it or not, guys, this leads actually right into this question. Is this going to be the answer for some people? Could this have been, or could this be the thing that pushes people to say, you know what, I am done with the Democrats. I am done with the Republicans. It's time for something new. Before this literal conversation right this minute, I was so dismissive of Elon Musk's, what does he call it? The American Party? The American Party. I was so dismissive of this because I thought it was absurd and obnoxious and ridiculous and reactive, which it's all of those things. However, this whole Epstein thing and the disappointment, the profound disappointment of where this went and where it ended up, could be the very thing that adds fuel to Elon's, plan here. And I'm not saying it's a good plan. I'm not saying it's the right plan. I'm just saying it's something that could absolutely push people in this direction, who are just sick and tired of all of them. This one big club, again, I'll use that phrase. This kind of proves that they really, truly are all in it together, right? Or at least it certainly feels that way from this.
This you and I have talked third party politics 20 times, whether it's Ross Perot or if it's, RFK Jr., like we've talked about the impact of third party politics on national level elections.
Yep.
But I saw a new perspective today, and it actually came from Musk. One, listen, folks, politics is expensive, very, very expensive. That's why things like big pharma get things done in their favors, because they have money to lobby and truthfully to buy votes within Congress. And listen, they're not the only ones. The pro-abortion lobby, the pro-life lobby, the pro-gun, anti-gun, right? It's all, the lobbying is all part of it. But really, politics is expensive. When was the last time a poor person became president of the United States, right?
Yeah.
When was the last, even if you say Obama, I disagree with you, but you go back and look at how much money the Democratic Party, the DNC, dumped into getting him elected, okay? People without money don't get elected. Musk is like the guy who can do this because he is willing to, I think in most cases, put up his own cash to fund this. So that's part of it. Like this, there's some reality to this because of his financial ability. Now, the thing that I hadn't thought of in all the discussions that you and I have had and I've had with other people is Musk is not looking at this point to change or even put a third-party candidate in for president. That's not where he is focused. He is focused on congressional seats, because if you look at Congress right now, both the House and the Senate, it's a razor-thin margin between the two parties. And what he said in the, the kind of announcement of all this is, and it was in response to the, one big beautiful bill getting passed, was if you put a third party in there, a viable third party, and they hold, say, 6 or 7 seats in the Senate, and they hold 25 seats in the House, they are the swing vote, and they hold all the power, right? You don't have to be, right? You can affect the majority. You can be the ones who make the majority by only having a few people, because the margin is so thin. And that's what he's aiming at. I think he really is aiming at backing enough moderates to get those kinds of seats across Congress, because then it changes what laws are passed and how. It's not, you can't go party line anymore. You can't, which again, I am all for. But I think affecting the White House is a totally different matter. But I don't think that that's what he is aiming for. So third party politics below the White House, I think is definitely a new discussion, and one that has some teeth right now in light of everything that's going on.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think this definitely lights a more fire underneath anyone who considering this as a potential viable option or idea. So I don't know, Elon Musk, I have never been an actual fan of his by any means. I have consistently said I appreciate the role he has played to serve purposes that have been beneficial for us as a country, for social media as a platform, all of that stuff that does not coincide with trusting him or, really anyone in power, and nor should anybody have that high level of trust in them. Your trust is, you trust them as much as you need them, basically, I think is kind of what it comes down to. Right. But either way, it's obviously something we have to keep watching. I think that is going to develop probably very rapidly. I think, he's already declared that it's a thing for him to backpedal now, to say, okay, never mind, I'm not going to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. At least not anytime soon. There's egos involved. So we'll see what direction that takes. And let's, all I can do at the moment is just hope that it is something that actually ends up being beneficial to the American people in some way or other. And there's plenty of people that do feel that it does have that potential to do that. So jury's out for me.
Yeah, I think jury's out for me too. But I think in the context of what he's talking about, it makes it much more viable than trying to win the White House. So, it's a smarter approach.
Definitely.
And I think it has it's not a high chance of being successful, but it is a higher chance of being successful because he's not aiming for the White House, which is
right.
So,
yes, very smart.
But
very smart.
Talking about egos.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about whether or not President Trump, do you think he's going to win a Nobel Prize?
You know what? I mean, what is this? Is this like the third or fourth time? I don't know. One of those is going to be the charm.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you go back and you go back into his previous administration,
right?
This is like the 12th time he has had about 12 nominations, give or take, for a Nobel Prize. This one, you got the latest one, folks, is President or Prime Minister, whatever he is, Netanyahu. Bibi handed him a piece of paper and said, "Hey, I'm nominating you for a Nobel Prize," right? Mm-hmm. And Trump was very, gracious and those sorts of things. Now, he hasn't been so gracious in the past about the Nobel Prize. He has made statements like, they gave it to Obama for nothing. Obama, talked about how good he was at bombing people with drones, and they still gave him a Nobel Prize. And I did this and I did that, and I still won't get a Nobel Prize. And there's some truth to that. But again, he's not he doesn't have the most humility. But so Pakistan nominated him last month.
Yep.
U.S. Representative Carter, right? Mm-hmm. Carter, Darrell Issa have all nominated him within the last 6 or 7 months. And going back, I think the number is somewhere in the 10 to 12 range of total nominations.
Wow.
That he has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. But I don't think he's going to get it.
Yeah, he probably will not. I personally believe that he does deserve it. But yeah, will he get it? Probably not. I have to agree with him. He said that as well, of course, that he probably would not get it. And that is probably true. I do think he deserves it. But, the flip side of that is at this point, I mean, how much do we care about these things, anymore? Like prizes, awards, all that stuff. Like, and I know this is like the top of the top. But, in the general sense, and maybe this is here's the fatigue word again, my Hollywood fatigue and celebrity fatigue and the yay me fatigue. I am so tired of all of that kind of stuff. And when it comes down to it, they're just trivial things. Like all that should be mattering is, what you're actually doing and not the, I don't know, the accolades for it, which are nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a pat on the back. I love compliments. I love compliments, they make me awkward and uncomfortable, but I still love them secretly, not so secretly. But I don't know, like how much when, to kind of echo Trump, when Obama got it for basically nothing, how much weight does this actually hold in anybody's minds? Am I wrong, Clay? What do you think?
No, I mean, you can go into the comparatives and that's the problem, right? Yeah. There's been a low bar set. And so what people will say is, well, he got it. Why shouldn't so-and-so get it? Or why don't I have it? And there's been mistakes made, but I think, the Nobel Committee, when you guys start getting into science and research and those kinds of things, that's a little bit different. Yes, the Peace Prize seems to be a very arbitrary, popularity contest. It probably needs to go away because it's been stained and soiled over the years so many times that I think it's largely irrelevant. So, do I think he'll win it? No. Do I think he'll keep getting nominated? Yes. Some people are speculating, why did Netanyahu do it? Why, is it a bribe? Like, is he trying to stay in Trump's good graces? Is it payment for something? Was there an agreement made? Hey, you guys got to hit Iran. We can't really hit it again. But if you do it and you pull it off, I'll nominate you for a Nobel. You know what I mean? Like, so again, it goes back to the big club theory, right? New World Order, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
But I think regardless of all else, I don't think he's going to get it anyway. I don't think, no one in any kind of liberal mindset anywhere in the world is willing to give him anything.
Right. Yeah.
They wouldn't give him a Hostess cupcake.
No, they would not. They would not. Nope. No, absolutely. Yeah. They've proven that time and again that there is absolutely nothing he can do. No good deed, no amazing act, nothing that he can do that will make them, give him that cake, right? Cupcake.
He could cure cancer and they would say, well, he took away Medicaid, so it really doesn't matter.
Right.
People won't be able to afford the cure. You know what I mean? Like they would find a reason. It's the floods. It's the same thing. They'll find a reason to blame him, to not give him credit and all of those things. So regardless of how many nominations it's been or it will be, he's not going to, it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I am of the same mindset. I do hope it for his sake, just because it's, there's obviously some swagger to that, still, but it's probably not going to happen, but I would love to be wrong. I generally hate being wrong. It irritates me to no end to be wrong because it happens so rarely, obviously, guys, but I would be okay with being wrong. There's a few things that I would be okay with being wrong with. One thing I am not wrong about is our last and final lighthearted topic, which is, I don't know if lighthearted is necessarily the right term. You guys can maybe come up with something, right?
Laughable is the word.
It is laughable because if you don't laugh, you'll throat punch somebody, right? So here it is. Clay tasked me with picking out this one, and this was it for me. This was the rip my hat off my head, throw it on the floor, shake my head, and go, what? Wait, what? This is just. For the people who are listening and not watching, I've just thrown up a picture. It's a screenshot from a tweet, I think, from Variety. And it says, James Gunn says he's the, I guess, director.
He is the director, yes.
Okay, thank you. James Gunn says Superman is about an immigrant that came from other places and how we've lost the value of basic human kindness. And he also said, yes, it's about politics. So get ready, guys. The new Superman movie with a new Superman guy playing it is about politics. It's about an immigrant who came to this country blah, 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 blah. Are they trying to kill these franchises? Like, is that the actual goal? Like, do they really hate these franchises so much that they have to just grind them into the ground? It is so ridiculous. And I have I have some points here, and I wrote them down, guys. You can bear with me because I want to read them because I don't want to miss any of it. Again, we have that word. This is, I always have, every episode I have a word of the episode, and it's fatigue. This time it's today it's all about fatigue. It is yet another $200 million blockbuster reprogrammed to push guilt trips instead of grit. Will patriotic audiences, this is the question, of course, will patriotic audiences finally say no thank you at the box office? And I think that is absolutely the case. These movies are tanking. Snow White is just right off the top of my head an example. I think some of the Marvel flicks have tanked as well, which is I became a Marvel fan after marrying my geek husband who loved Marvel and all of that stuff. So we would go see every single one of those movies the minute it came out, and I fell in love with them and I enjoyed it. And then, of course, what happened? They went ridiculously woke and, just changed these characters from the essence and core of who they are and what they represent, and all of that stuff. And, it's so crazy to me because the irony here is that this James Gunn and all of these people live behind their gated communities and their walls and their wealth and all of those things. And they're completely out of touch with the real world. And, to call Superman okay. So go with me on this, guys, because I am aware that we are talking about a fictional character, but if we can just go into pretend world for a minute, let's be real here. Superman came from another, well, not country, but another world, another realm. I don't know, right?
Planet.
And another planet. Thank you. Marvel, not DC. I don't know what to tell you. And he came here and he moved in. He was adopted by a Kansas family, right? Kansas couple. And he did this crazy thing that all legal immigrants did, and they assimilated to this country. Didn't try and destroy it, didn't trash it, didn't tell everybody that it's the suckiest place in the world and they should change it to be more like his planet. He came here to make it a better place. So, and that is what the immigrants of my growing up, my lifetime have always been. They came here legally. They worked their butts off. They fought for the American dream, or they believed in the American dream. They fought to have that for themselves and their lives. And they loved this country. If not as much as their born country, as much. They loved it here so much and wanted to become part of it, not change it. Superman did the same thing. So to compare Superman with illegal immigrants who are here waving the flags of their country and being mad that, that they're getting deported for being here illegally, not the same thing, bud, not the same thing at all. And James Gunn, you absolute twit for trying to make that comparison. Congratulations on trashing yet another franchise and flushing it right down the tubes. And that's my rant on that. And, as you guys can see, I'm laughing about it. I'm not mad at all. It's just too stupid to actually get mad about. But
it's laughable. It's laughable because you mentioned Snow White, right? Snow White tanked because the young lady who starred in that movie, don't even remember her name, was adamant and very political and really snotty about everything. And if you look at Disney, because that's really what this is, right? She's, right in line with all of the Disney stuff, except for the fact that there's been this ongoing and growing backlash against Disney and its wokeism for the last few years, right? So right on time, this girl steps in, opens her mouth, and seals the deal to destroy her own movie.
Yeah.
The superhero movies are on the same thing. They're all on the downturn, right? Everybody's worn out. The storytelling, as a guy who tells stories for a living, right? As a fiction writer, I will tell you all of this multiverse stuff, which now they've got both in Marvel and in DC and all the comic, is lazy storytelling. Nobody ever stays dead in comic books anymore,
right?
Except for Spider-Man's Uncle Ben. He's the only one that's dead forever. Everybody else comes back to life somehow. And they keep reimagining, and it's a new thing, and it's a retelling of this basic story. I mean, this is the fourth or fifth time that the Superman story has been told.
Right.
And now what you've got is superhero fatigue. I'll steal your word, right? Superhero movie fatigue. And then you've got a director who basically says, this is about politics. He actually used the words jerks and screw them in an interview talking about potential audience. And so feel free to follow in the footsteps of Snow White, right? Stick your foot in your mouth and tank your movie before it even starts. So, and Kellyanne Conway, came out, they were talking about this. She was on, I think, The Five or something. And she said, nobody wants to go to a movie to be lectured to anymore. And she's right. And she took a lot of crap for that. But she's right. Like, we're all at the point now, I just want entertainment. And if you tell me before I even go to the movie that it's about politics, I'm not going.
Exactly. Like I'm already out. Thank you for letting me know. Thanks for saving me that, whatever it is, $18-20 now, right?
You're better off pulling the bait and switch, right? And like letting me get in there and find out halfway through that it's about politics. Then I'll be pissed afterwards. Now I'm just not going to spend the money. Right. I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think you're going to see disappointing performance at the box office from yet another dum-dum who decided to, not read the room and just let things go. And on top of it, to make it even worse, his brother, he casts his brother in all his movies. Okay. And if you're a Marvel, right? If you're a Marvel fan, James Gunn did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Right.
Yes.
And his brother is one of the Ravengers, whatever they're called. Right. Yeah. So he's one of those guys. He's in this movie too. He came out at one of the premiere events and basically echoed everything that his brother said. So, they're all in it together and they're going to tank this movie together because it's going to be a mess. And, it's laughable. And folks, that's what we're ending with.
It is because you know what? I'm patient. I am I'm technically not really, but I can be in something like this. I guess when I care less, I can be pretty patient. But, these comics, these movies have, like you said, they just recirculate them. They reimagine them every few years. They start all over again. And when that shift happens, when they wake up and they realize, oh, these aren't making money because nobody wants to see this kind of garbage, they will go back to the original concepts and ideas and it will be wonderful again. And I will say, take my money. Here it is. I will come and watch every single one after another and love them to pieces. Just, and that's the thing about, these storylines. People actually love the familiarity of them. They don't want you changing it. I think in this one, I think I read somewhere that like he didn't even bother with any backstory, nothing. He just plopped these characters right dead center of the storyline that he created and just ran with it. So there's no backstory. I think him and Lois Lane are already a couple. It's just like bam. Oh, okay, we're in the middle of the story already. Okay, cool. So save your money, guys. Can we have Christopher Reeve back, please? Can we just?
All I know is this movie has the dog. Super is in the movie. Which has never been done in a Superman movie before.
Really?
So I think that was their attempt at bringing something new. But, look, folks, regardless of all that, it is laughable because they're trying to convince everybody to see these movies and then they're shooting themselves in the foot at the same time. So see it if you want. Maybe let us know. Maybe you go see it and you think it's awesome. And maybe the politics aren't as overt as James Gunn would have you believe. But I would be interested in a review from one of our viewers, fans, listeners, and not from some crack guy in Hollywood that's going to tell you what the studios want you to hear. So, I think that's it. I think we hit them all.
That is it. That is the end of the thing. So, listen, guys, next week is kind of up in the air. I think my daughter is expecting any time now. My fourth. Again, grandbaby number 4 is that baby's gonna be here next week no matter what. That is her due date is the 18th. My flight is scheduled for the 17th, cutting it close. All her babies have been late. Clay and I were talking about this before. All her babies have been late. This one seems to be on track to be late as well, but you never know. So we will see. It's up in the air. So I'm so excited. I am no less excited for grandbaby number 4 as I was for 1, 2, or 3. So I am so excited. I can't wait to hold the teeny tiny little thing. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got, Clay. You close them out.
Hey, folks, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. Second edition is out. It's available. It's in the wild. I know people that have gotten a copy already. So if you haven't gotten it off of Amazon, go check it out. Again, that's the second edition. And I am going to do one of my most favoriteest things this coming weekend, and I'm going back to jump out of an airplane in Florida, weather permitting. We'll see what happens, but that is my plan for the weekend, which I can't wait to do, and amongst many, many other busy things I got going on. So check out the book, folks. It's out there. The sequel's coming soon, Cross the Bear, so keep that on your radar screen. And until then, from me, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Prepare for the re-release of Clay's electrifying novel, Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. This is book 1 in his gripping Cross to Bear series. Experience an edge-of-your-seat thriller that will leave you breathless. Get your copy of this highly anticipated re-release. It drops July 4th. Don't miss it. She's the voice behind the viral comedy, bold commentary, and truth-packed interviews that cut through the chaos. Author, brand creator, proud conservative Christian, this is Elsa Kurt. Welcome to the show that always brings bold faith, real truth, and no apologies.